Today's episode is brought to you by the return of Overwatch League.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. It's been a long time, I feel like, since we've gotten to do one of these. I'm really, really glad to be back.
It's been 84 years.
And glad we got games again, too, man. We were all, I think, in need of the distraction, and definitely glad we got it back.
It has definitely been a long time, and man, the world is a drastically different place since the last time we had an episode.
Oh boy. Yeah, man, you know what's really funny? And give us a shout out if this falls under the category, and there might even be one in the live chat right now. There had to have been European or Asian listeners or people from the other side of the world that listened to us that knew, right, what was headed here, what was coming, right. And we were just like, oh, we don't know how bad it is, so we're not going to comment on it, and blah, blah, blah.
We did kind of comment on it.
We did. I mean, we acknowledged our ignorance very, very early on and up front, and just said that everybody needs to err on the side of safety and caution, and so we were safe from that front, but just like how naive we must have been, we must have sounded about how impactful it was going to be, and worrying about how the petty small things of like, but the homestands are gone, and like, it's just,
I do remember thinking, this is it's definitely a erring on the sort of caution, which is good, but it's like, wow. Right. But yeah, it's
yeah, with all the announcements, the cancellations, they hit us with a bit of surprise. Like, is this too? I'll fess up to it, at least for myself. I'm not going to put any words in Blevins' mouth, but I was like, is this really the reaction we need? It was only my ignorance that kept me from like saying anything. Like, can we just play? Like, come on. So what? Like, I was a little bit too much that it's just a kind of a flu thing, and for a little too long. But yeah, it's
for what it's worth. We do see this type of thing pop up. I mean, not this type of thing, but we see some sort of like regionalized disease or something pop up like every year or two. I mean, think, SARS and Ebola and those things, like those, like they pop up, and like everyone was talking about how those were going to be what COVID is now, and it's like, yeah, it's definitely different than that. So I don't know. I think we played it pretty down the middle, which I mean was wrong. We weren't like down the middle was not where it was, right? It was definitely on one side, not the other. But we played it pretty down the middle. And if you fault us for that, well then, screw
just
you
know
too.
We make no decisions. This was just fine in that front.
Yeah.
But we do hope you guys are all safely quarantined and socially distant and isolated.
Yes.
We'll start the show by assuring you guys that Blevins and I both are and have been through the duration of things. We're both very, very lucky and blessed to have jobs that we can do from home.
Yep.
So we're both still working full time. Really, I mean, we're gamers, so the negative effects of the quarantine, the social distancing, I've been preparing for social distancing for 18 years now, so I'm well set up there.
Yep.
It's the minor things for us, we're adjusting. It's still a very big change. We were talking about it in the pre-show a little bit. For me, the big thing is, like, what day of the week is it right now? It's a miracle we got this show out on Monday, because I didn't know it was Monday. Like, I just my whole days of the week, they're shot. Hopefully Overwatch League centers them around the weekend a little bit. I think that will certainly help. But yeah, it's it's crazy. You know, we're making the minimal trips to the grocery store, but otherwise, I think we're both pretty well locked up and safe. So we've heard from a couple people, and we hope you guys are all, you know, in a similar situation and able to take care of things, and hopefully your older loved ones are taking it a little more seriously than mine are. But otherwise, there's really nothing on our end, I don't think, to complain about here. So
No, we're both pretty fortunate for where we are in terms of our preparedness for this. And yeah, it's definitely I definitely spent 60 to 80% of Thursday last week like just dead set that it was Wednesday. And then I like looked at the calendar, someone said something, and I'm like, oh, I can do this either Thursday or Friday. They're like, today's Thursday, and I just like brain blast was like, oh boy. Oh boy, this is finally affecting me in some way. But yeah, so definitely make sure you guys are taking the necessary precautions. And again, as gamers, we've been training for this for a long time, so we will definitely get through it for sure. But we do have
hit us up too. We've been playing Overwatch I've been playing with Kyle and Thorn in the High Noon Discord channel. We're just there in a voice channel. I'm on a fresh 25 account because my mains can't play with those guys. Shout outs to Thorn for being bad. But also but you know, so he's in like it's in like the silver to gold range. So it's not necessarily the easiest to be able to jump into if you are on the higher end of the SR tree, but literally we don't ever mind. You know, if you see anybody in there, hop in. Down to get some games in. I play only DPS, which I play just like, you know, every other gold player in the world, because I'm pretty bad on that role. But yeah, so anyways, we've been trying to have some fun with it, take advantage of the fact that a lot of us are home for similar hours where maybe we normally weren't because of a variety of different preoccupied or I don't know, yeah, scheduled things. I don't know. I haven't recorded a podcast in weeks. I don't know how to talk anymore. But yeah, so hop in, join us. Just at me. I don't care. Just at me in Discord. Hey, DB, you want to play some games? Sure, why not? I literally, whatever game, if I own it, I'll play it. I don't care. Hit me up. Yeah. So otherwise,
I was just jumping in there and just hanging out. I wasn't even playing.
You did. Yeah, that was not in the High Noon. But it was, you did. You just showed up while we were in a 4-stack.
Like, oh, Blevins is here. You playing? I'm like, no, I'm not.
No, I just miss speaking to humans, so I just need here.
I just need to justify my existence and make sure that I'm still real.
Yep.
So yeah, talking.
The answer was inconclusive, so we're
I'm still not sure, but I'm recording more shows just to try to see if there's any sort of feedback. But enough about that. Let's talk about some HMP housekeeping. Blackwatch report. Just rain, sleet, snow, hail, global pandemic, or hell freezing over. They are going to be covering the tier 2 scene. They do not stop. No matter what, make sure you're checking out Blackwatch
Nobody
report.
Involved with tier 2 Overwatch makes enough money to take a day off, regardless of what's going on in the world. That includes podcasters, so they are obligated to keep going. We made them sign a contract that says they're not allowed to miss an episode. That's definitely not true. Don't worry. But yeah, no, I don't think they've missed an episode because of this. Those guys are absolute troopers. I'm pretty sure Contenders hasn't skipped a beat either. They've been online already for this season, so they were set up and ready to go. So yeah, make sure you guys check them out. Got lots more time to watch more than just Overwatch League now. So.
True. And DB, I know you had a little bit of an update potentially on videos, maybe.
Oh, for YouTube? Yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna get. There's still nothing in the replay viewer. I don't know what was involved in getting them there.
Right.
Everything's going to be different, and I'm sure it's not a high priority for Blizzard at the moment. I'm sure they want to get them there if they can, but if you watch the broadcast this weekend, you know there's a litany of issues they need to deal with and get squared away to just improve the quality of the broadcast. So shoulder content has to take a back seat for the time being. I don't know how it's going to fit into my new schedule, and my sleep schedule is messed up by just literally never leaving this chair for my entire day. So I'm going to try. I do really want to. I've got enough time to do them. Assuming everything happens on a similar schedule to when there was the LAN games and the homestand, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not holding out hope for this week too much. If I get them and I come up with an idea for a topic, I'll do one. But what I'm really hoping for is I can use this week to know, okay, this is when I can expect to get the replays. This is when I can carve out the time in my schedule to do it, that sort of a thing. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm just kind of putting a pin in it. But I still definitely, obviously, really want to make YouTube content. If you didn't get the memo before, I'm very excited about about making those.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really want to get back to them. But I just wanted to put it out there that I don't have any idea if I'm going to be able to, if they're going to give me something to work with,
Right.
or whatever. So we'll update you more as we know more on that. And really, that's going to be the theme for the show today. We don't have a schedule for next week, and we're live. We don't have anything other than we watched some games, like 60% of our attention devoted to them this weekend. So this show, everything, it's going to get real sloppy. We're going to mirror the production.
Hold on. It's going to continue to be sloppy like it's always been.
Sure. Maybe a little extra, though.
A little extra slop on the top.
Yeah, a little extra sloppy for you. Yeah, so listen, everything's so up in the air. All we can tell you guys is this show, if they're playing games on a weekly basis, we're going to talk to you for an hour on a weekly basis. That's what we can guarantee you. Otherwise, what we can get out to you, we will. And as soon as possible, we'll get on a very regular schedule. But again, we can't even do previews for matchups this week because the schedule is blank on the website. We can't do anything. So I can't promise you a YouTube video. I can't promise you anything more than this episode. And the only reason I'm promising you that is because I already.
But what we can promise you is that discord.me/highnoonpodcast is where we will be. And even if we're not getting a show out, the community is still there, and we can still talk about what's going on. And I mean, we're getting into off-topic stuff on there, anything Overwatch related as well, of course. And definitely a place to be. Discord.me/highnoonpodcast for the weeks that we're not here, because we're just I just slammed my desk. I'm just that passionate about Discord.
Emphasis
at the wrong time. We don't know what's going to happen. So if the matches get canceled, then we're not doing the show. It's just not going to happen. But if they are, we're going to. So Discord is where we're going to announce all that stuff, where we'll keep up to date. And if you guys just want to talk about what's going on, hop on in. A lot of people in there that keep it going. But let's move on and do a little bit of news. Man, before the matches even started, you sent me a message.
Yeah, you caught an L really early.
I caught a real big L. NYXL was just like, I don't think so. Not going to play the matches.
Yeah, pull-out game is strong in New York.
We're not. They're already sandbagging.
It was their wording. It was their wording. I didn't write the.
Yeah.
They wrote. To be specific, we might as well read the actual thing, assuming I can find it. We talk a lot. Okay. As the state of New York continues to mandate that all non-essential workers remain at home, the NYXL will temporarily be stepping back. Oh, did they not say pulling out? No. All right, my bad.
Their step back game
their
is
step
strong,
back game
which is
so
not true
strong.
because
It's
the Knicks
ridiculous.
suck. Go on.
Fair. Well, they step back every year. The NYXL will temporarily be stepping back from playing matches in the Overwatch League. We're continuing to make all efforts to return to competition as soon as possible. We'll continue to create incredible ways for our fans, the best in the world, false, to connect with our players digitally during this time as they represent our city proudly and demonstrate the resilience it is known for. So the only problem I have with this is this tells me your plan wasn't to have them playing from home when it went to online.
Right.
Like you were still going to bring them in. And to me, just like I don't know, they were like less plugged into what was going on than I was. So it's weird to me. The timing of it, though, I wonder if this is half the story. Because the timing of it was very similar to their next bit of news. And I'll just read that real fast. London and Vancouver are headed back to Korea. They're going to be put on the schedule there to play against the other Korean and Asian teams. It's going to be a lot of games outside their division. But honestly, their teams were fully Korean. They've got to want to be near their family
Right.
during everything that's going on. Korea's safer than the US is at the moment. So all things considered,
Right.
any of the Korean teams that want to up and move there, and the league seems to be very accommodating of that, it's probably a phenomenal move. From a league logistics standpoint, there's only 5 teams that were over there. And that means there were 15 that were over here. So those 5 teams are going to play against each other a lot, and adding a couple more teams to that schedule to spread things out a little bit, give a little more diversity, probably going to be very good for the viewer experience for watching. I want to reiterate, is this the best balancing? There's divisions, no, it's not. But you know what? There's nothing about this season that's going to be done idealistically any longer. There's nothing about the planet Earth that's going to be done idealistically for quite some time. So this is a great band-aid to me. This fixes two problems, one of which we hadn't even experienced yet, and the other one I hadn't even thought about. It gets the players closer to their families. It gives them the ability to give a more watchable product and better diversity of games and everything like that. So personally, I really hope this is only half the story for New York, and that they're also headed back to Korea, because I think putting another team over there is great for that. It's also great for their health and just everything like that. It just feels like an absolute positive. So yeah, and like I said, New York's going to get it figured out. They're going to get their players set up at home, even if they're not leaving the States and they're staying here. They'll get back in action. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't kind of a bad look for the New York franchise that they were the only team that needed this.
It did. Like, when the league took off last week, or I guess 2 weeks, however you want to think of it, the weeks that they took off, no one was like, oh, well, I mean, idiots. Why don't you just play the games, dummy? It's like, well, they probably need to make massive changes, not only to production, but just get the teams ready. They probably, like, how much of this scenario that we've been living through do you think was A, drawn up, B, even thought of in the league rules? Like, I don't know if you know this offhand, like, does the NFL or NBA or any professional sport have, like, world disaster, pandemic, like, provisions? Like, traditional sports just canceled. Yeah. Traditional sports just straight up, hey, we're done until it's over. Like, we're closed indefinitely. So the chances that there's, like, a pandemic coverage, and, like, in the case of a global pandemic where we're all quarantined, we're going to be playing the matches in home. So have it in home.
This isn't a contingency anyone could have planned for.
Right. So I don't think, I think given a week, it's like, was production going to show up with, like, terrible lighting and, like, no background and just in their pajamas? For what it's worth, like, they had the setups looking all right, but, like, there was a lot of issues, and that was with a week or two or 2 weeks of like, getting it ready and set up potentially. So kudos to everyone who got it ready. But my original point was, like, everybody got it ready and up to a point, except for New York, who was like, nah. I wonder. A couple things I wonder, though. We'll probably never get the answer, but I wonder if all of the teams were given this option, or if NYXL just went out of the way and said, we're not playing. And if so, do they get some sort of, like, league fine? Is there any sort of repercussions to this? Could the teams have then opted out? Like, because it's not like it just affects them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't just affect them. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, there's no precedent for this. There was no plan. And I think it's basically just going to be, they're going to work I can't imagine there would be any fines or anything.
Right.
But what I would worry about from a New York fan perspective is they're the only team that needed to do this. And if logistically they're unable to get their makeup matches scheduled, those are going to be forfeits.
Right.
So that's to me is like the downside for New York, and in the
Right.
grand scheme of the world, who cares about X number of
Right.
forfeits or whatever?
Right.
It's fine.
Well,
But
you say
you know,
that, but you're not a New York fan, so screw you.
I say that the
Those
New York
forfeits
fans
happen to
should
be
feel
against
that more
Toronto and Houston.
listen, New York fans know all about having 5-game cushions going into the playoffs.
Right,
Okay,
that's true. They just did their
they're
sandbagging early.
they're probably going to be fine in that. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just unfortunate, and I don't want to. Yeah, we don't really want to harp on it or harp on anybody or bash them. I just kind of wanted to throw out that it feels like a bit of a bad look for the team that they were the only ones that really couldn't pull
It
it
just
off.
seems
But
weird that
we'll see
literally
how. Yeah,
everyone
it does.
else got it, but
Yeah,
they didn't.
it does seem weird. That's the best way to word it and describe it. But we'll see if it's like a 1-week thing and they're back and playing from home. In a week or two, then who cares?
Right.
But we'll just have to play it by ear, and hopefully we get SBB's gap tooth smiling face back very, very soon.
Yeah, let's hope for it. Okay, now we pretty much talked about all of that. Was there any other news or any other topics that we want to talk to before we get into the actual matches?
I don't think so, but I do want to talk a little bit about the broadcast. Did get a little bit of information about how logistically they're handling things.
Mm-hmm.
So this is again coming directly from their website. But so yeah, for online play, they're only matching teams against opponents where they can get a reasonable latency,
Mm-hmm.
so that there's a level playing field. I think is what's most important, right? They don't want one team playing on 150 ping and the other team
Right.
playing on 250 ping.
Right.
That's not fair. And would definitely make an impact. You talk about the difference even on LAN of the microseconds of a widow killing another widow, and then you
Right.
add latency into it, and tie goes to the shooter, and everybody's mad. So they're minimizing that, and that's why you're going to see some teams not play against other teams other teams in the league this year. You're going to see teams play against some opponents a lot. We talked about that a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be helped by some of the full Korean rosters going back there to kind of play outside of their division. We do also know, obviously they've got the broadcasters, everything like that, playing from home as well. They did cast even the 4 a.m. games. I heard Kyle called them the Red Eyes in Discord. I liked that.
Yep.
The Red Eye matches, you get one broadcasting duo for those two games that just does both of them. And then they do the regular kind of alternating for the US. Everybody's awake at this time. All the casters are awake at this hour of the day thing. So that was very much more normal there. And they did say that they have their referees, right? Their game operators, whatever the terminology is. They're actually connecting up to the individual players' computers and running scans for any third-party software that could be helping them cheat.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, they're definitely doing some extra stuff to help with the competitive integrity side of things, and that I thought was great. I'm glad they addressed that and put out some news about that. But I guess what really to me, all these, it kind of answered all the questions I have. There's a nice little article. I'll link it in Twitch chat right now and throw it in the show notes as well. If you want to dig into the specifics exactly about what they announced, you can definitely do that. And I'm just making sure I actually put it in the notes, because I wonder how many times I say I'm going to put it in the notes and then don't. So yeah, it's actually there now. I've already copy pasted it, so you guys can check that out. But yeah, they did a lot. The only questions I have are playoff times, right? Because playoff matchups don't care about your latency concerns. You have the X seed against the Y seed, and they've got a face. So it's going to be curious to see. That's obviously a ways down the road.
Right.
I wonder, maybe we'll get our answer to that there's no good answer if the pace of matches starts to slow down,
right?
Because they need the league to last longer so that they're concluding when the crisis is abated and they can get everybody together again on LAN. So yeah, that's really my only change. We do know they canceled the mid-season tournament, that sort of thing.
Oh no, not
They're
that.
going to do something online, whatever I think they said, but like the actual formal stuff is
Right.
at least gone. They're even working on getting stuff like player cams and stuff going for the broadcast. But all things considered, this kind of is a good segue into what I wanted to talk about the games. They had so many production issues this weekend, Blevins. Understandable given the crazy circumstances, all that stuff. But how much did it impact your ability to like really watch and focus in on the matches while they were going on?
I'll press this button first, just so that it stops bugging me.
It's tournament talk.
Yeah, so first off, it was definitely different. And
No need to sugarcoat it. There was times it was brutal.
it was bad at a lot of times because it's like obviously I want to watch Overwatch League matches, but I don't want to watch like uncasted games. Like I just don't want to do that unless it like even if it's like matches I really want to watch. Like I don't want to watch uncasted games. I just don't.
Right.
So there were times where it was rough, and Matt and Mr. X and Uber were like constantly like each going in, and then one would go out, and then one would go in, and then they would like keep talking about it, which like I think it's fine. Like you got to make the best of a bad situation,
Sure.
right?
The casters did a great job making do.
Right, and no one is like, oh, well, you guys realize you can't hear each other. I'm just gonna not watch now because of that. It's like everyone understands, right? It's not like that, but at the same time, it's like there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Like
right.
I when like, am I really gonna wait like a bunch? Like if I'm watching the game, I'm like already playing a TFT game or something on the side, and it's like I'm look over and it's like a slideshow. It's like I'm just gonna tune into something else just for a little bit, and then when they fix it, I'll come back.
Right.
And like I found that happening a bunch. I'm sure that happened with other people too. Unrelated, probably. I don't know any of the technical backside of it, but unrelated probably to the Overwatch League productions. Juked, which is where I usually watch Overwatch League because it just has all esports on it. So if I want to watch,
love juke.gg, check it out.
Yeah, definitely check out juke.gg. Hashtag not an ad.
Not an ad, but yeah, hit us up, Big Chain Man.
Yeah. But because it's like during the breaks, I'll be like, oh, let me see if there's like a Smash event going on, or like I want to watch Counter-Strike for 10 minutes or something just to see how that like broadcast goes compared to something else. That wasn't picking up the Overwatch League matches for some reason. They fixed it eventually, kind of, but it was just like there was a bunch of things, and then the games being at a different time. Like I'm not waking up at 4 a.m. to watch the matches. I don't care who it is. I'm not doing it. That's what VODs are
don't
for.
Go to bed yet, forehead.
Yeah, but then it's a zero-sum gain because then I'm losing time somewhere else, or I'm just losing hours off of my life at a much higher rate. But yeah, I mean, overall, like it was like I think they did the best with what they could with what they had, and they made the best of a bad situation. But I would imagine that there are people who are even less patient than I am that are probably like,
Well, I'll jump in. Overwatch League tortured me for 2 hours. It felt like at one point this weekend. All of the issues I can get behind. I swear to God, if Uber ever only talks into my left ear again, like that was no joke. Like I couldn't. I was like I would just have to like okay, like take my headset off. I know it's
like reset,
I'm doing visuals, yeah, but I just needed to like take them off, rub my ears, just block out all sound, reset things for a minute. That was absolutely brutal for me. As a headset user all the time, this headset's always on my head. So that was very difficult. And I'm like, I was about to just give up and just be like, okay, I cannot watch this. And then they gave the instructions for how to enable mono sound on your PC. And I did that immediately, and I was completely fine. So thanks for that. Uber, when you're giving instructions for people to follow, talk slower. I'm an IT guy and barely kept up with it. That was a lifesaver. They did get that problem solved. All the rest of it I'll deal with. You know, I do wonder, are they trying to do too much, right? Like they're talking about, we want to get player cams involved. No, I don't need them. I don't need them. Can you scale back on the number of analysts to like reduce the number of people in the call? I don't know what the nature of their problems, but to me, it just felt like when I tried to host around the payload on my potato that's over there, my old PC, and like 4 people in a video call started to like melt the processor down, you know, sort of a thing. And it felt similar to me in that regard. I don't know if that was anything to do with what, you know, what it was. Maybe it was just everybody has different hardware and all these things, because like different caster pairings seem to have different levels of problems. You know, Jaws and Hex were mostly fine. There was some audio lag. They'd be talking over themselves a little bit, but that was, they just kind of adjusted, and it was maybe a little awkward, but whatever. You know, as a casual observer, or like you said, you know, somebody that may or may not have a game on their other monitor that they're playing too, you know, it barely impacted me, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I thought that was fine. But yeah, just the one instance of the left ear only was like for 2 maps or however long it was human torture. It was brutal. And then I got the mono audio up, and we were good. So yeah, listen, I just a personal note to Overwatch League: if it helps iron things out and get things to go smoother, just take things off the broadcast, right? Like I'm okay with that as a viewer. If I get like Zoe's face and then pictures of the other guys or something like that while they're talking, or one, you know, only one analyst having a conversation with Zoe in between, or get rid of the desk entirely if you need to. That's the overnight procedure, right? Those guys aren't awake yet, so they just don't have them, and the casters do them. The casters all rotate onto the desk anyway, so they do a pretty good job of that. That's all okay to me, especially if you then can get things stable and add them in slowly, and okay, that's too much, that causes a problem, take it away for the rest of today's broadcast, that sort of a thing. And I hope they take that tack, because yeah, it was definitely a little rough, and I think the reason for that is that nobody's trying to port that scope of broadcasting feat into a remote online thing, right? Like we see a lot of tournaments, and those are like online cups that were always going to be online, and it's one guy doing the camera work, and you know, and here they're trying to like keep their employees employed, and that's commendable and everything like that. But yeah, I think they might be able to like pare things down a little bit and get it a little smoother, but at the end of the day, they're going to figure it out. And it was far from unwatchable for me, again, outside from the torture.
Hey, I say get Hex and ZP back and just do it old Gosu Gamers Weekly style. Just
I mean, if they needed to, like ZP could become the cameraman. Like he's got so many hours of experience doing that, and he doesn't even have to give up the casting job. Just like let Jake do the play-by-play, have ZP do the color instead or something. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully they're open to that if it helps them. But I have no idea what actually would help them get their problems resolved. So who knows?
I think at a high level, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Like don't. No one is going to be like, what they need to, what they're probably, I'm sure is top of their mind, is that they need to keep up their fiscal requirements or whatever that they've made with advertisers, right? So they need to make sure that they're doing their crunch times by Cheez-It groups, et cetera. Make sure that the things that need to be there are there, and then it just like you said, trim the rest of it away. No one is going to care if we don't see, like, I'm just going to put it out there. I don't care at all about player cameras ever. I don't think. It's nice to see like the stadium and whatnot when they're there, but like, I don't need to see people at their computers.
But they don't, not having them isn't a detraction from anything.
Right.
But it can add something, but yeah.
Exactly. So like pare it down as far as you can, get that nice. And then if you want to add something another week or like, then do it. But no one is expecting you. Well, no one reasonable is expecting you to take what we had and port it over to the online broadcast. So you don't necessarily need to try to do it.
Before we move on and discuss the matchups that were, I've got to go back and do a little bit of housekeeping.
Okay.
The vote is officially closed. The poll is over. During our downtime, during our downtime and our break, I'm very happy with the result. During our downtime and during the break, if you don't know, if you're not in Discord and you're not on and not following us on Twitter or just active on Twitter, we've been doing a Discord fan base voting contest, March Madness style. I bracketed both of the conferences, and we've been pitting the teams against each other just to see who's got the most passionate fan base, the most whatever. Can just get the most votes on Twitter.
Yep.
It's a fun thing NFL teams do. A lot of the fan bases get really involved, and the Bills always win them, so I always hear about them. So I wanted to kind of bring that over and see how it went with Overwatch League. Had a lot of fun with it. Really, unless we learned a lot. I personally learned a lot. Blevins, if you want to take a shot at a team, it's the LA Valiant. You know why? They don't have any fans.
Nope.
Nobody showed up. There's nobody listening that gives a crap about the LA Valiant.
True.
Because they got no votes. So that's where our easy shots go from now on.
Right.
We also learned that, man, we're so smart about the teams that we chose. Like we picked the teams that everybody, but I think we're just the trendsetters, right?
Definitely.
There was the votes on these things. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool. We just wrapped up the semifinals for the Atlantic side. The finals are all that's left. To give you an idea of how much I've been enjoying this, the semifinals for the Atlantic division was Houston versus Toronto. We're pretty sure the Toronto versus New York that broke Blevins' heart a little bit there.
By one vote.
We're pretty sure it was exactly one vote that did that.
It was exactly one vote.
Also, it was the Great Root Bears vote.
100%. 100%.
Nobody else could have possibly. You guys might as well just not. Just know that Great Root Bear individually chose to advance Toronto over New York. It was brutal to all his friends in New York. But in all seriousness, that didn't happen.
I mean, it might have.
Says
we don't know.
Vote.
We don't know.
He says he didn't vote. We'll see.
He photoshopped the results.
I've opened a ticket with Twitter to find out whether or not he submitted a vote after taking the screenshot. We shall see. But yeah, we're going into the finals. That will be live. I'm going to type it as soon as Blevin starts talking. I'll type up the poll and get that out on Twitter. So you guys can vote for that. It will be the Vancouver Titans, who the semifinals there, they beat the San Francisco Shock, so they got a little bit of revenge there. It's Outlaws versus Vancouver, though.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys vote for Houston and point and laugh at the Ready Set Pwn guys when they lose. Make sure you do that. No, big thanks to them for being advocates for the thing, participating. All the fan groups that participated and shared the poll and got people excited. It was great. We had a lot of fun doing it, and it's not quite over yet. So yeah, one last round, Houston versus Vancouver. Don't let me down. Don't let me down, guys.
Right.
If your team let you down, that's on them. Take it up with them. Help me get my win. Houston all the way. I mean, gotta make it.
All it will do is secure the Houston Outlaws as the Buffalo Bills of the Overwatch League. So
I'm great. Presumptive AFC East champions for next season.
Right. That's right.
That's how that goes.
We're in it. Yeah, I mean, if it were closer, I would have been mad that Houston beat Toronto, but it wasn't particularly close. So
in a contest like this, I kind of thought Houston might have the advantage, right? Like the fan base is just so active, so over the top, everything in a
but so is Dallas
way. Are they? Seagull retired, are they?
I mean, they were at one point. I mean,
yeah, they were.
Bob
yeah, honestly, they were.
Bob exists.
Last year, though, I think may have broken that fan base a little bit, if I'm being honest. But.
True. Yeah, so definitely check those out. That was fun. I mean, I think that those are just cool things. People love a tournament. It's March Madness. Keep it going. And yeah, so once we get that out, we will start and talk about some of the matches that happened. So I will read through those now. We start off with Shanghai Dragons winning 3-0 versus the Guangzhou Charge. Hangzhou Spark 3-2 over the Chengdu Hunters. Toronto Defiant winning 3-1 over Boston Uprising. Seoul Dynasty in their season debut 3-0 versus the LA Valiant. LA Gladiators, who nope, we were talking about Valiant before. Never mind. LA Gladiators win 3-1 over San Francisco Shock. Shocking, I know. Chengdu Hunters win 3-0 versus Shanghai Dragons. Guangzhou Charge 3-2 over Hangzhou Spark. Atlanta Reign 3-0 versus the Florida Mayhem. Seoul Dynasty winning 3-0 versus the Los Angeles Gladiators. And LA Valiant completing the LA sweep of San Francisco, winning 3-1 versus the Shock. A lot of things to talk about here, Death. I think the biggest one, the biggest elephant in the room is the current reigning Overwatch League champions, the San Francisco Shock, losing not one but two matches this weekend versus both of the LA teams.
Yeah, and the Gladiators are thought to be a very competitive team, but the Valiant are kind of not. They're holding steady at the bottom half of power rankings. Now they've shown a competency in their minimal out they had before the break. That made us think maybe they weren't going to be like a lot of people had them like 18-19 territory, right. And I think they showed to be a little better than that, but not capable of punching not on San Francisco's level. So definitely a very surprising weekend here from the San Francisco Shock. And I've seen a lot of theories thrown out there as to why. And I personally, as I always do, I think I've got it figured out. So they won last season pretty handily, right? Like they were kind of on top of things. And you can listen to any of the words that ever come out of Super Sinatra's mouth to kind of get the mentality, the picture of the attitude of the team. And it's a very good one for sports. I don't mean that as a negative. But when that leads to such, convincing success as it did last year for them, I think you can get a little too big for your britches. And I think that may have been what happened with San Francisco. I think they can do whatever they want and beat whoever they want, because that's kind of what their attitude and their mindset has got them thinking and acting like. So I don't know. I'm going to hang this one on Krusty. At the end of the day, there was multiple occasions where I saw Sinatra playing Reinhardt this weekend, and I would see Super wasn't even out there, right? It's Smurf and Sinatra, and you're playing Reinhardt 100% of the time. And this was in both matches at different times. So this tells me they think that they were just so far above both of these teams that they could almost meme, right? Do whatever they wanted. I mean, I literally some weird combinations, especially in the first match of the week, I think. Like they had, I don't know, they were benching Choi Ho Bin a lot, but specifically there was like Super, Sinatra, and then who was the other one that wasn't out? There was one more. Anyways, but yeah, Striker? Just like no, I think Striker was out there. I don't know, but he might have been playing support or something silly. Yeah, they just got, I think, way too cute for things and thought, they could just do whatever they wanted and not take it seriously. It's almost the impression I got from what their compositions were and just how things played out for them. And I don't know how a team that has been so disciplined and so well coached can really come to this conclusion leading into this weekend. And maybe, listen, they only had one game before. Maybe it's about changing things around and figuring it out. And Super was right for Reinhardt last season, but maybe scrims showed them different this season. I really can't say specifically, but it feels like coaching really just failed them here. Their comps didn't make sense. Their plans didn't make sense. They were all over the place. And at the end of the day, and they've even said specifically, it was when Jeff Kaplan was on Sinatra's stream for Echo.
Yeah.
And that announcement, he was like, "Oh," Jeff was asking him, "So who do you think's going to play it on your team?" Or, and is that just a coach's decision? And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's all coach." So the players don't get any say in who plays and who plays
Right.
what and who does what. We did get a little bit of that insight there. So every single one of these decisions falls to Krusty then. It just
Right.
has to. This was before, he said this before any of this happened. So he didn't even realize maybe that he and he didn't, throwing his coach under the bus. At the end of the day, the coach is always going to be the one that takes the fall for
Right.
silly comp choices, things like that. But yeah, I don't know. That was it to me. I'm not worried about San Francisco going forward. I think that they just got served a slice of humble pie.
Right.
They may have continued to do it if they lost to the Gladiators. They weren't undefeated. They dropped to Atlanta in the playoffs. They lost to Houston in stage 4. They were beatable. It wasn't crazy for them. But the loss to the Valiant, I think, was a gut check. I don't think they
Right.
thought they were beatable by that team specifically.
Right.
And I expect them to right the ship and calm things down and get things figured out. Listen, I know Sinatra's a very good Zarya player and probably your best, but Choi Ho-bin's your best off tank. And when you've got players out there that can't play Doomfist as near as well as Sinatra playing Doomfist while he's on Zarya, I have to wonder, the best off tank in the world should be playing off tank, and your best Doomfist player should be playing Doomfist. I don't know, it's a crazy thought. But flexing Sinatra to Zarya is something that worked for GOATs. I don't think it should be a long-term plan. So I think it's just a coaching or a planning or whatever failure here. And I do expect it to get figured out and righted. Krusty's never had a bad team for an extended period of time, right? He had Boston way overperforming, and when he left, they fell off of a cliff. So I think he'll get it right, and then hopefully they, ate the full serving of humble pie, and it takes a full season to get him back here.
Right. Well, the thing is like, you're not gonna work that hard to eat if you're not hungry, right? Like,
sure,
they were at the top, and like, obviously they did scrims, they got complacent, or it might not even necessarily be complacent, but like, when you're at the top, there's only one way to go, right? I mean, you can go further up, you can but it's hard to do that when you're not being pushed. So, you're doing scrims or whatever, you're practicing, but like, you don't know what your opponents are doing. Right? You don't know where they are. You don't know where you need to be because you're up here and they know where they need to get, and you're trying to like be better, but you don't. It's tough to do that. So, I think it probably was a bit of complacency and a bit of like, yeah, we're good. Obviously, we're going to beat these teams, and like, even if that's not an active mindset, it's still a passive one that affects you. And when you're not getting challenged, you're not going to even. Again, not necessarily nefariously, you're not going to try as hard. You don't have to, so you're not going to. It's going to be. It takes a very, very extremely disciplined mindset and coaching staff mentality. It usually takes an in-game or usually on the court or something leader to pull those people around, like a Michael Jordan, for instance, would It's hard if you're the best team in the world. It's hard to get better, but there's usually a person like that, like a Michael Jordan, that's like, it doesn't matter how good we are, we need to be better every single time. And it's hard to do that, especially when you're not near your team, you're quarantined, all this other stuff. Like, I get it, but it's tough to do that.
And everything we hear, and I think this gets overblown, and like a comment was, people think he's like the in-game shot caller, but like everything, when you hear them talk about it, it's Sinatra that's the leader of this team,
right?
And he's also kind of their meme lord,
right?
So he's that guy that has the cockiness and the arrogance, and again, that's good in sports until this happens, and then it's a distraction or it's whatever. But
it can be good in sports.
In football, and it's funny, as a Buffalo fan, you hear about it a lot. It's something you hear about when your team loses. Culture, the team culture. You need to learn how to win. all that stuff. It's very, very true, but it is a completely separate skill set and a very important one to maintain success, to keep that drive.
Right.
We won the Super Bowl last year. We need to work harder because it's harder to repeat as champions than it is to win it the first time. And that's the kind of mindset we needed to see. So I think we can probably pull from any and all of these levers, including this is the first week of home games. Everybody's super distracted. These guys are from California. It's way worse there than it is here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that can have contributed to that, but all their opponents are also from California. And
Right.
it was all the opponents first week and things like that.
Yeah.
And if the Shockers supposed to be the team that's so good, not just because they're talented, which they are, but because they have the best coach in the league, then they're the ones that should be immune to those kinds of distractions.
Right.
So that's why I'm not giving the blame there, and I'm choosing to look at the questionable strategies and decision makings that happen there.
Right.
And also, it didn't work the first time, and you didn't change it up for the second match. We saw Paris completely shift everything, their lineup, 3 players out, 3 players in, whole new plan, and upset the Philly Fusion. So maybe Krusty's going to be one of these old crusty coaches in Overwatch, the old guard, as we'll probably call them. I don't know. It's 1 weekend. It's way too small of a sample size to slap that label on them. But
we don't need to go too deep into it, but it's like there's two competing mindsets there. It's like you've got Paris, who it didn't work the first time, so you changed it, and then it worked, right? So it's kind of results oriented thinking a little bit, because it's like, well, what if they changed it and it didn't work? And so then you go, well, they didn't even give the strategy that they plotted out a try, right? It's the same thing here. So I don't know. I think it's 1 week.
There's a double-edged sword to that, but when your plan is, I'm going to meme and play people,
well, that's right. Yeah,
it's an exhibition game, and you don't change that for
that's dumb.
Yeah, that is to me why it's a problem.
Yeah, if it was a meme, then it was just wrong from
right,
the onset.
not something. Yeah, and it was changing map by map who was playing what role, and that just seems so sloppy and terrible. So I don't know. Hopefully they don't, for their fan base, they don't keep that up. They're pretty upset about losing that fan base poll in the semifinals. So they need some wins on the actual score.
Also, the whole memeing thing, like, even if it was a meme and they win, like, it's not, I don't know if it's a good look anyway. Like, I used to see in basketball tournaments, there'd be like these teams that were like, this is when I was younger, so probably I'm thinking like 7th or 8th grade, so probably like 12 or 13 years old. There'd be teams that were like at another level of the kids, like that, like, and sometimes we were that team, but there would be teams that would be like, they'd be way more disciplined. They'd have like a stud player that was like way better, and they would win these tournaments by like 20 plus points. And they would do these things like they would only they wouldn't dribble. They would only pass. So like the whole time it'd be passing. And if someone accidentally dribbled, they would just put the ball on the ground and run back on defense. And it's like, I get you're kind of trying to do a thing, like a discipline thing, but you kind of just look like assholes doing it, especially considering that you're and like, yeah, it's flexing in one foot, and like that's fine, but it's not really helpful at all to do that to anyone. And it just like, even if you win, it's like, who cares? You know?
Yeah.
And then like you're put in a position where like so you start off thinking that you're going to crush this team, but then what if it's close? Are you still going to put yourself are you still going to put yourself in a bind like that? And that kind of happened to San Francisco here. So it's like you did that and you lost. So you really just look dumb. But speaking of a team that did not look dumb and did live up to the hype that we gave them what seems like years ago now, considering the last time we actually saw them play. Seoul Dynasty now. New roster, new lineup, new lease on life here, going a 6-0 on the weekend. Are they the real deal, Death?
I think so, man. Is it confirmation bias if I see weekend my preseason is dead on, can't possibly wrong. Maybe, but I'm still here, right? Like it was my analysis of them was that they were absolutely leveled up. They were one of the
Right.
elites. And I'm not seeing anything to pull me off of that. And the Gladiators and the Valiant as their opponents aren't the elites that they were supposed to have jumped up and joined, so they should have won. But when you look at across the table at what we just had a conversation about the 0-2 weekend for the San
Right.
Francisco Shock, and Atlanta played, but they went against Florida, who looked terrible. And Shanghai was supposed to be really good, and they got 3-0'd by Chengdu. And there's just so much back and forth. And when you see somebody come out and make a statement like this, like we've said it a lot. We said the last 2 years, there's always going to be surprise wins. There's always going to be surprise losses. It's about minimizing them, and it's about taking care of the games that you're supposed to win.
Yep.
And when the Valiant and the Gladiators are out there proving that they can be a spoiler for anybody in the league, and you go out there and you just 3-0 shut them down.
Right on the neck. Just
end it. Just
no spectacle.
that's what an elite team looks like.
Yep.
So yes, very small sample size. We've only got these 2 games. We've only got this one hero pool we've seen them in. All these things. That's another factor is maybe San Francisco just needs Moth on Lucio to coordinate things. Who knows? But this is what I expected to see from Seoul, and that's Gesture looking like a beast on main tank. But Dosen, guess what, guys? He is the second or third best flex support in the league, so he got that job. People didn't think he was going to get that for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so we saw a lot of talent flock to Seoul this offseason, and now we're seeing him use it. They even were able to use 2 main tanks when they wanted to run double shield, which was really popular this weekend. They were willing to make that swap and do things, and that's a boost when you do it and you win with it, and it's a negative when you lose with it and can't change to anything, right? Because you're limited. So getting a good read on the meta, they came into this weekend and said, okay, we want to play double shield. And nobody was able to force them off of it. So I guess we don't know. I don't recall seeing any crazy substitutions from them really or anything like that. So a lot of what I disliked about Seoul in the past seems to be gone.
Yeah.
And now they just have Profit on DPS doing ridiculous things, and Badosin making big plays on like the best parts of London, the things that made London terrifying, apart from Fury, are here now, combined with a lot of things that made Seoul a top 4, top 5 team last season, whatever it was. So yeah, listen, they're doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Seoul fans should be very, very pumped. Right now, if I had to do a power rankings, they might be number 1. They're not going below number 2. I'll tell you that much.
It's definitely tough to put them below. It's tough to not put them number 1. Again, small sample size, but I mean, if
the only reason I would is because Vancouver's also undefeated, and you know what I mean, and has the also until I see more of down. But another weekend or 2 of this from Seoul, and I'll say that's right there with what Vancouver did. And now there's unknown from them. How do they handle this? How do they handle hero pools? And those questions will be answered for Seoul by that time. So, I don't know exactly. I mean, a literal perfect showing, 6-0, like you said, like absolutely nothing negative to say about Seoul. They look like they might be the 2020 team to beat. Tiger King, if you will.
Yes. We need more reference to Tiger King in the show.
I got to watch one episode if I'm going to make more.
All I'll say is that, no, I'm not going to make any spoiler references to Tiger King. Never mind. I'll think of a meme for next episode probably. I mean, just all in all,
Tiger King of Chicago. Can we pull in some Ferris Bueller action into this one?
No. It needs to be something about.
I got to watch it. I can't be writing these jokes.
Yeah, you just watch.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Actually, start it right now. You remember Ernest Goes to Camp? You know those movies, Jim Varney?
I never watched them, but I know of them.
But you know what he sounds like, right? What Ernest
Roughly
sounds like? Okay, that's what the main character sounds like. He sounds like,
oh boy.
It's great. But it's such a good show. But Speaking of good shows, Overwatch League happened. Seoul put on a great show. I think besides that, I mean, there wasn't really anything. I mean, Seoul and San Francisco were the two main stories. The
Well,
complete
we don't
Chinese
have.
parody puzzle was also
Yeah,
put
we don't have
together.
previews. Do you just want to run down the matches we haven't talked? Just quick takes.
The yeah, I mean, the Chinese matches were literally a completed parody puzzle, right? Guangzhou
Yeah.
loses to Shanghai and then wins against Hangzhou. Hangzhou beats Chengdu and then loses to Guangzhou. Guangzhou beats Shanghai and loses to Hangzhou. So like, you know, what do you even
Yeah,
take from that
it's
from those games?
they've been absolutely crazy so far, and that's exactly par for the course for Chinese Overwatch. To be perfectly honest, it's always nuts, it's always crazy, it's always super entertaining.
Which is actually awesome,
Um, yeah, it's
considering we're
great
gonna
to
have to be
watch.
watching a lot of these matches over and over
And
again.
it's extra confusing because I'm either exhausted because it's 4 a.m. and I'm still awake,
Uh-huh.
or I've been awake for 15 seconds when I pressed play on my phone and sent it to my TV through Chromecast. And I've just got Brennan Sideshow yelling at me about Dragon Blades and God knows what. You know what I mean? Like it's so
Yeah.
hard to actually absorb anything that's going
Mhm.
on its own because of the time of the day. But yeah, across the board, some things I noticed. Shanghai Fleta looks good in red. I'll say that much. He had some very strong showings, specifically against Guangzhou.
Mhm.
Obviously, they got the 3-0 win there. I was told Lip was a rookie of the year. And right now, I'm just wondering where Diem and Ding are,
Right.
because he's fine, but I don't like. Listen, you had a world class, like elite, one of the best DPS duos last year, and you've now benched both of them
Right.
full time. It seems like now one of them I think had medical issues earlier in the off season. We don't know the status of that. Fleta's a proven top tier player in this
Right.
league. If you want to use him instead of one of those guys, I'm fine with it. But right now, you've benched an elite DPS option for a rookie that looks fine, but I mean not crazy good. And I think it would have been much better to sprinkle him in a little bit. Get,
Mhm.
okay, what's your best hero? Let's use you there in a hero pool
Yep.
weekend when we think it's going to be really popular or something like that. So it's not that I think it's a bad thing that Lip's starting. I don't know what the situation is on all the players, but I'm just not overly impressed with it. I think this roster, stand one, I thought looked pretty good. Really, the rest of their rosters solid. You know, they're
Mhm.
doing pretty well. But I didn't care too much for the DPS performance. What I want to know from Shanghai though is, do you have the guts to stick with it?
Right.
The rookie looked worse in his first week. Newsflash. Rookies do that sometimes. Do they back off? Does somebody else go in? Is this just Lip's job now? I don't think it should be his job, but I would really respect it if they never took him off the stage
Right.
and left him in there and said,
Right.
nope, this is our guy.
It's
We
the
believe in him.
investment.
We're
Yeah.
giving him his chance. So I'm very curious to see how Shanghai handles that going forward. Chengdu and Hangzhou. That game was nuts. It was back and forth. It was crazy. Chengdu is still absolutely Chengduing it. They're doing whatever they want.
Yep.
Lots of wrecking ball. You know, not this weekend, but whatever.
Yikes.
But yeah, that one's a great one to watch. The other Chinese ones, you can skip Chengdu versus Shanghai unless you just want to see wrecking ball roll over people.
Yikes.
And then Hangzhou and Guangzhou was another great one. Very back and forth, really one-sided maps. You know, the winner alternating who wins. It was a really fun, really hectic watch,
Mhm.
and casted by Sideshow and Bren. Which, when it's already going to be fun and hectic, that's exactly who you want to do it.
Yep.
So yeah, they did a great job there.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that they didn't have to keep their voices down so that they didn't wake up other people in the apartment complex.
You're waking the neighbors.
Let's see. The other ones we didn't talk about were Toronto versus Boston.
Yeah, we skipped the news on Malfin because it um
I mean, what are
under
we going to comment
investigation.
on?
He who must not be named too. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to give it any attention or give him any more attention than he
Right.
should get, unless it's negative.
At the end of the
Doesn't look like
day,
he's going to be on the team anymore, but there's an active investigation into
right.
what's going on there. real creeper stuff.
At the end of the day, the drama of it is out there. Go look it up.
Yeah.
From our perspective, not relevant. Only relevant if they play or don't play.
They sucked with their starting off tank, and they still suck without him playing their back. And that's sorry if you're a Boston fan. Wake up to the fact that your team's not trying to win.
Right.
And it'll be less painful when they say that. But yeah, they're don't look like a coherent, cohesive, quality Overwatch team at all.
Right.
Toronto, with all their problems, with Beast not able to play Winston on the weekend, it didn't matter. Boston only got the one. So squarely 20th in everybody's power rankings, and I'm plenty happy with that.
And dropping fast.
Buck
the last match that we didn't talk about is Atlanta versus Florida, and was a steamroll.
What does Chris do well? Like, okay, fine, you're a main support who sucks at Lucio. Why are you a main support? I don't get it, but whatever. You are. How come you can't even play Brig well? How come you just suck at everything? Why did you let Rain go, Florida? Very disappointed in Florida. There's a lot of talk of conversations to be had. You're going to hear it. Carry on versus Fate. It doesn't matter. They can't even get their DPS right. So where is Saya player? You're just losing, and your best player remains on your bench. BQB is very good. I have I'm not even damning BQB. Saya player is an organizational build around.
Right.
Just support him, forehead kind of a player. I think he could easily be talked about on almost profit levels of play. So like the glimpses we've seen of him are that good. It's just we don't get to see him for an extended period of time to know if it holds up and is it true. And so they're broken fundamentally. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt going into this year. McGravy did an interview talking about the whole bare hand situation, and everybody's bitter and everybody's mad, and bare hands is the devil. But it was never bare hands' fault. It was never anybody's fault. The organization and the management and the ownership of this team. Go figure, the US or the Western players that got cut so the team could go full Korean are bitter about it, mad at the guy that talked them into that decision. That's not news. That's just a biased look from one side of an argument and from the losing side of it too. So they're extra bitter. That to me was all over sensationalized and overdone. The real bad guy in that situation was the management signing 50% of a roster that spoke English, 50% of a roster that spoke Korean, and having no idea what they wanted to do with it. Why is your staff? Why do you have two different staff members? One goes, we should go full Western, and the other goes, we should go full Korean. And why is the ownership going, I don't know what I want to do? Why aren't they going, shut up, I hired you to do what I want. I want a mixed team. I want a Korean team. I don't even care what it is. Just pick one and execute it. Don't let your staff shouldn't be mid-season talking you into fundamentally changing and all these things. And you should have a plan and you should be executing it. The organization is sick from the top to the bottom, and it's the top's fault. There's just everything else. Anything that touches Florida is going to look worse than it is and just get a negative connotation to it. And that's really unfortunate for those players and that organization until they wake up and until they actually have an opinion. Like, you're an esports organization, right? Like Misfits, didn't you own teams before? Did you just wing it then? And how did you make any money or have any success? How can you teach me to put such little effort into my job and my projects and reap that much success off of it? Because you haven't been punished until now, when the league got formalized or formulated or formed. I don't know, whatever the word is. I'm too angry at Florida because I, honest to God, I thought I bought in a little bit. Like I was like, no, I like what's going on here. I think Fate's a good tank. Saya player is a beast. Gargoyle looked really good, and then they just have Chris on main support, and two of their two best players are on the bench, and I'm done.
Put those players in a different jersey, and they've got a pretty decent squad.
We've seen it before from all of them. So yeah, I don't know. Trade Saya player, please, anywhere. else that's not Boston.
Yeah, I was gonna
Please.
say. Yeah.
You know what? At least I'll see him play, and I'm convinced he doesn't know who Kraft is. So I don't hate Boston players when they go there as a person. It's better for his career. So yeah, trade him to Boston.
You know there's something wrong when Death is
That's
saying
how bad
trade
it
it to
is.
Boston.
I would like to see the man in Boston blue.
Crazy, crazy. Okay, let's get down to our last section here.
Oh, let's break it down.
Only one real thing to talk about here because we don't have matches yet. The schedule has not been released. We don't even know if there are going to be matches next
I'm
week.
checking. And still
Maybe.
nothing.
Still nothing. Okay. We have a hero pool. May and McCree, Wrecking Ball, and Brig banned for the weekend. Anything jump out to you as a takeaway from these bans, Death?
Chengdu is screwed. I think it's going to be the Wild Wild West here, Blevins. McCree and May were format warping. They told you
True.
you can't do certain things.
Yeah.
That was why I think Dive has been better or was worse than the standard death ball compositions of Ryan Zarya, things like that. So I don't know. I'm feeling some Winston Diva Dive action here, right? Like that just feels like what it's probably going to be.
Yeah. It's true. Brig
I
and
don't know.
McCree being gone definitely make
Yeah.
Tracer look a lot nicer.
Brig, McCree, and May all did work against Dive. I still believe you can dive fine against a May, but she didn't make your job easier.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking a lot of a dive weekend. I'm really excited to see it. We got a little bit of a taste of it before. The Ryan Zarya is still going to be good. It's going to probably be map dependent, honestly. If I'm really thinking about it,
Yeah. There's
just maps and points where there's no high ground that you want to be diving.
Right.
Ryan Zarya should be able to kind of roll over people. Hanzo's probably going to be really, really good on the DPS front. So Washington fans, maybe Corey. I'm just trying to think of who like the really standout.
Right.
Players are on Hanzo, but they didn't play this weekend, and we don't know why. They had a match versus Florida get taken off the schedule, and maybe it was just to even things out. We have no idea.
Right.
But yeah, hard to speculate because we don't know who's playing.
Yeah.
But we'll do this every week, and maybe we'll start to get the matches a little more in advance down the line, and things can return to normal, and we can talk specifics. But we'll just do heavy recaps going forward until we have matches to preview. And yeah, just happy to be back.
Yeah, happy.
What do you think of this meta? Anything stand out to you? What do you think's gonna be good?
I'm hoping that New York has their crap together so that they can play. If Tracer and Dive is going to be a thing, I want to see New York play, especially if May's not in there, so that we don't have to see May. We don't have to accidentally see May for them. So yeah,
who are you on May, PogChamp?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I just want to see matches played. It is, again, I'm not any of the little stuff, the replay viewer, even the schedule stuff, any of that. Like, I don't, like, obviously I care about it and I want it to be there, but like, trim. Get the actual broadcast and day of matches set. Get that as solid as possible. And then add on to that, okay? We've been here a long time, Death. I don't know if the people know this. We've been doing this for quite some time. We've gotten fat in our spoiled ways, and maybe we're used to this life of luxury now. But we came from humble beginnings with Overwatch competitive back when we were excited that Hex and CP were casting matches every week. And not just the alpha. Tavik has to borrow his friend's account so that he can play events that happened every few weeks. So
hashtag Pluppy lives.
Yeah, Pluppy does live. So I'm just hoping that we're going to get matches this week. That's what it boils down to. We've gotten to that point where we're hoping that matches are going to be played. So all in all, definitely a rough week, but I think the production and the crew and everyone involved really soldiered and got through a rough week, and hopefully it only looks up from here. Before we go, Death, anything that we want to touch on?
No, I think that's it. Just to reiterate, we're as bored as you guys are. Hit us up.
Yeah.
We're the content's light, everything like that, but we still want to interact and connect with you guys. So we'll get some ranked games going. I don't know. Enough of you guys at the Blevins in Discord. Maybe we can get them to install Overwatch again. I'm just saying.
Not gonna happen. We can play
Just
Jackbox games though if you want to play Jackbox.
Jackbox.
Have you ever played Jackbox game like Quiplash or? You've
No,
never
I play
played
good
those
games, but
You don't know what those are. Do you even know what they are?
fair. No.
Oh,
Fair.
they're party games. They're not video games. Don't think of them as video games because they're not good video games. They're good party games. But
Like
they're things
Mario
that
Party.
no, not like Mario
I
Party
hate
is a
Mario
bad
Party.
video game.
Yeah, I despise Mario.
Mario Party's not a party game. It's a bad video game that has the word party in it. These are like actual like party game. Like think closer to charades. It's not actually charades, but think closer to charades than a video game. But if you guys want to do that, hit us up because that might be a cool like game night thing that we do. That's not Overwatch. That's not even gaming related. Let's just get some people and do some stuff, and you can actually play with viewers and stuff. So that'll be it, everyone. Thank you all for listening and watching and sticking together in these strange and crazy times. We're gonna keep on going as long as there's matches to play. But for Deathblow, I am Blevins. Remember, no matter how crazy the world gets, it's still happening.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
I just got a text message from the Coins agent that said if we're only doing recap shows that we need to figure out a part for the coin or else they're suing. So
Coin is such a diva. You can't renegotiate.
Such a diva.
Coin.
Such
Just
a diva.
shut up.
Shut up, Coin.
Stupid Coin.